Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Derek VanRiper here with Todd Zola. It is week 3 of the off season, or week 3 of draft season, or week 3 of the rest of your life, depending on how you want to look at it. Lots of ways to connect with us here. You can do the Twitter handle at RotoWire for all the RotoWire tweets, at RotoWire MLB for just the baseball news. He's at Todd Zola. I'm at Derek VanRiper. You can also search for RotoWire on Facebook. Hit the like button on that page. Interact with us that way. If you want to send us an email, you can do that at fantasybaseballpodcast@gmail.com. And if you listen to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, please take a moment to leave us a nice rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you to the many of you who've done that over the course of this season. All right, Todd, the playoffs are rolling on. Yankees-Astros in progress as we speak. It looks like the Yankees are about to win their 3rd consecutive game in the series to take a 3-2 lead as the series shifts back to Houston. You can easily see the Astros pushing a Game 7 by winning Game 6. But this has been a really exciting postseason overall. I think I'm a little concerned about the Cubs-Dodgers series, which, as we record, is getting ready to have Game 4. And the Dodgers already have a 3-0 lead in that series.
Yeah, what do they say? It's not a series until the home team loses a game, right? Well, the Cubs have lost. The Cubs have lost one, but they're holding serve in the American League so far. It's interesting. Keuchel didn't look terrible. He didn't look great. I think the Yankees' approach has been pretty good, and there's been a lot of scouting back and forth both ways. Heard a lot of the interviews, how approaches to the different pitchers, and that's the big part of the game now is seeing these guys so often and knowing what they throw and what they can do against it. It's not just go up, see the ball, hit the ball. There's so much more to it nowadays.
Continues to be an exciting postseason, though, overall. I agree with you. Keuchel, I thought, looked okay. Some news to get to from the postseason. Corey Seager is not playing in this NLCS. He's got a back injury. He's progressing in the rehab with the hope of playing in the World Series. Kind of amazing what they're doing without Corey Seager, who's been banged up really since the middle part of August, at least.
Yeah, and it's something like, you mentioned your Dodgers haven't lost yet, this, that, the other thing. And I know I've seen several different people tweet this, so this isn't anything, I thought of it myself, but it's not, whatever. September I don't say it means nothing, but, the Indians were hotter than fire, and where are they? The Dodgers couldn't, losing streak, and where are they? So, next September, just remember, when your team's competing or not competing, don't worry about it. Get into the dance and see what happens from there. But yeah, this whole thing, it's not as if the Dodgers could have been doing better, and it's one of those things where Taylor stepped up. Chris Taylor, I don't know what to do with Chris Taylor for next year, by the way. There's several players like that. Taylor stepped up, playing a little shortstop. They had mental block. Who did they have in the first couple of games? Charlie Culberson. And now they've got Taylor. Taylor's going to play one way or another, but he's been playing a little bit of shortstop now. But yeah, the pitching is just, they, like we kept saying, they didn't get Darvish for September. They got Darvish for October, and man, their bullpen is lights out. And the Cubs bullpen was pretty poor. I mean, relatively speaking, for a playoff team, and it's coming to fruition in the postseason too. Yeah,
that was their Achilles heel as a team.
Yeah,
starting pitching was a little banged up too, but so far that's been okay. It's just been a disappointing late relief that's really let them down. It's not a bad bullpen. It just isn't as good as the others, I think, is the best way to look at that. All right, let's talk about some other injury-related news, off-season news to pass along. Finnegan has 2 healthy shoulders now. If you remember, he had a shoulder injury from pitching and a shoulder injury from falling. The one from falling was to his non-pitching shoulder. The one from pitching, of course, to his left shoulder. He seems to be fully healed, which means he can go through a normal offseason. Only made 4 starts, I believe, in 2017 before going on the shelf for good. So we didn't really get a look at him coming off of a up and down sort of first full season with the Reds in 2016. Do you like the idea of throwing a dart on Brandon Finnegan? We're going to 15-team slow draft, as we talked about for a few weeks. Is he one of those arms you would think about taking with one of your last picks because of that strikeout potential and the possibility that he still gets better since he's only just going to be 25 in April?
Yeah, no, I know we each have more than one team. He's a guy that I don't want. He's not a guy I want on every single team, but I do want to throw the dart, get some exposure, to borrow from our DFS lexicon. I would like to have some exposure to him. I liked him before the injuries. I'd like to see what happens. I'm not as afraid of the Great American Small Park, as people call it. It is bad for homers, but not terrible for runs, although Finnegan is a fly ball type pitcher, so he could be giving up the homers. But yeah, I'd like him somewhere. Like if I'm drafting one team, I'm probably not going to be throwing that dart, but I probably will have him on a DC or a cut line or something like that.
The injury to his non-throwing shoulder, by the way, was a torn labrum, so pretty significant to the non-throwing shoulder. I believe it was a strained muscle. It was kind of like a left triceps thing that they started describing as a shoulder problem with his pitching arm, so kind of back of the shoulder with that. But I think that's a reasonable take. Not a guy that you feel overwhelmingly confident in, but you'd like enough of the skills to take that chance, see what happens, and make him one of your first cuts if he's not really showing signs of progress when the 2018 season gets underway.
Yeah, especially just because unless you have a lengthy DL, I mean, he's probably not going to pitch the full season, and you're going to need that DL spot for somebody else. So he's probably not an NFBC, 7-man reserve guy for me, because I just, I want to take a look at him, stream him. So I think it's just a waste of a reserve spot. But if you have deep benches, or, even if it's a dynasty league and somebody dropped him, which very well may have happened, I do think he still has, I want to get on him before he has that good year. I just don't think it's going to be 2018.
The draft and hold format, 50-man rosters could be a format where I'd think about it, though.
Yeah.
Even with those innings concerns that you mentioned. 162 innings in 2016, just coming off the 2 injuries. Have to wonder if they're going to handle him with some care early on. Let's talk about the Red Sox, because that's where a lot of the offseason news is right now. We talked about it a bit last week. Hanley Ramirez is going to be ready for the start of the season after undergoing shoulder surgery. And interesting thing about Hanley is that he is utility only in a lot of leagues. He only played 18 games at first base in 2017, so if your league requires 20, he doesn't qualify there to begin the season. Mitch Moreland, I believe, is a free agent, so they could end up playing Hanley, a decent amount early in the year at first base. A lot hinges on what they do in free agency, but he is UT only for now. The bigger question is, do you see a bounce back of some kind coming from Hanley Ramirez? 133 games, 23 homers, hit .242. I believe that's the lowest batting average we've ever seen from Hanley before. The slugging percentage dropped from .505 in 2016 down to .429, and that's kind of in line with his recent past. I mean, his last year with the Dodgers, he was under .450. First year in Boston, in the mid .420 range. Is that just what he is at this point? I mean, he's 34 years old, and he's had a lot of shoulder issues over the course of his career.
Yeah, I as a Red Sox fan, I hope he's like the 6th hitter. I hope they go out and get somebody or maneuver their lineup such that, I think he'd be a good as a 6th hitter. Fantasy though, man, you mentioned utility thing. Will he pick up 5 games at first? Well, we're not sure. Probably. Who knows? But with just so much flexibility now, he's a guy we're just going to get at a huge discount in drafts now. I mean, he's not going to be like the Ortiz of years past, where you draft him at worth his stats and you don't get a discount for utility. He's going to get a huge ding for utility. So it's one of those things where if you want the discount on him, plan on getting some flexibility before you even pick him, so you're ready for him. So when you get him, you can use some utility. If he doesn't pick up those 5 games, you're not sweating it. But yeah, I think he is 15-team mixed worthy, but it's sort of, as one of your back end players, as your 21st player, 13th or 14th hitter.
Yeah, I think that's as much as you'd want to rely on him. I guess the other way to ask the question with Hanley, too, is what we've seen over these last 4 years the full range of outcomes. I don't really expect him to get better than 30 homers like he had in 2016. I think that's his ceiling, in part because of the concerns about the volume of games he's going to play. But is .242 the floor with the batting average, with 286 being kind of the ceiling? Because it seems like a 260-ish projection would make a lot of sense, and probably 20 home runs or 23 home runs. It's pretty much in line with exactly this year. And then the difference would be how much better is the lineup around him. If the lineup around him is better, that RBI count that really let people down this year could actually rebound quite a bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hitting sixth, he'll probably knock in some runs. He may be penalized. I mean, if he does hit sixth, and penalized. I mean, that means they go and get someone. There's not a whole lot of someone's out there. I mean, I don't see them getting Eric Hosmer. That some people are saying that, especially if I don't deal with these sorts of things. But Scott Boras is talking $200 million for Hosmer. That's kind of a joke. A lot of talk about JD Martinez. How do you fit in JD Martinez? But I do think they will go out and get one more thumper, assuming Devers grows. But yeah, it's kind of weird how batting. You said projecting for 260, which it's middling. We last 4 years, what's it been? 283, 249, 286, which is real close to 283, then 242, which is real close to 249. So we're going to project him for 260 because that's in the middle, and he hasn't hit that for each of the past 4 seasons. He's been above or below it. But that's just the way regression works both ways, and that's the way projections work, and that's the proper way to do it. But I think I think 260 with 20 to 25 homers is probably about right, and that's worthy of a 15-team roster. But it's your fourth or fifth outfielder or utility. In our case, well, when we have him in our drafts, so I keep saying our case, and in most cases, you really faded your utility, and you're probably taking shots at other players to backfill him and to get some upside onto some other guys.
As far as the cost, I mean, again, you mentioned we have a share. It's going to be like round 19 when you have to get him. I mean, that's pretty late, so he's going to fall pretty far for a guy that's only a year removed from being a pretty impactful bat in that Boston lineup. Some other Boston-related news to talk about. Eduardo Rodriguez won't pitch for at least 6 months. He's had a lot of knee problems throughout his career. This kind of puts him back in the mix for game action in May or June, because if he's not pitching at all for 6 months, it means he's kind of going through his version of spring training once the calendar flips to April. So you're going to lose him for, it looks like maybe 7 to 10 starts at least, depending on how things heal. My hope would be that having surgery now kind of reduces some of the risk of further issues for him. We'd talk to a Stefania Bell or a Jeff Stotts to really get clarity on that. But it's a shame because I think when he's healthy, Eduardo Rodriguez has done what I expect him to do. It's just that he had that really bad start after he slipped before the game. That was against the Orioles, I believe. Orioles,
yep.
And it didn't seem like he was ever quite the same after that.
Yeah, he showed a couple of signs. The beginning is okay. He's just knocking the rust off, had a good start or two, and he just really didn't carry it through. I mean, he was literally pitching to be, the third or fourth starter in the playoffs, and it didn't work out that way. He's not CC big, but he's not Chris Sale skinny either. So, I'm kind of curious to see what his conditioning is going to be like. Some guy you carry weight what you carry, and that's your effective weight. Wouldn't mind seeing him, as someone who is twice as big as he should be, drop a couple of pounds. Whether it puts less stress on the knee or not, I don't know. But he looked a little sloppy in the uniform, and I'm hoping that with the knee that he's, even if rehab alone is working out, at least cardiovascular wise, et cetera, that he's able to stay in shape, because that's always you can always sit down, you can always keep throwing the ball. There's different not so much exercises, but there's different ways you can keep your arm going, arm strong enough, when you have a leg injury. But can you keep the regular, the cardiovascular, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting. It puts Steven right back on the radar, and it definitely opens it up for purchasing a fifth starter. The Red Sox are going to be over the cap. So now, which is, it's one of those things, once you're over, heck, you might as well just keep going over. The tax grows, but relative to, the help you can give your team, it's almost like, why not?
Would they be the kind of team that would trade for Zach Greinke if the D-backs were going to shop him? With his contract being what it is, they seemingly would be interested in doing that. I think he's got some no-trade protection, but if you're already over the luxury tax threshold, as you said, why not? Sale, Greinke, Porcello would be a nice start.
Yeah, that's a lot over. I mean, he's with the 25, 30 million, whatever it might be. I mean, Arizona would have to eat some of that. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm quite going there. I'm right now putting together free agent lists and things like that. I mean, a name that I want to review it, but at least according to my data, Jake Arrieta is a free agent. I didn't hear a whole lot of talk about it, but that's why I said I want to review that a little bit. But he's listed on anyway. So, a guy like that probably wouldn't be quite as much. But, we'll see. I mean, the other, the big question mark, will David Price come back too? Because, that I think they're showing that the pitching and new manager, whatever. But hindsight is so 2020. They overused Chris Sale during the season. He was just terrible in September. That had nothing to do with Sale just not pitching well, right? It had to be the manager overused him. That's just the way Boston is. It's not blaming the player at all. So hopefully that they don't go too much in the other way, which I think what Chicago did early this season was to go too light. But then of course they pressed a button and they're almost not with there anymore, but they did get there anyway. So yeah, it's gonna. I mean, we have talked a lot about Boston for a good reason. They've got hitting and pitching that's very fantasy interesting. Don't worry though. As the course of this winter goes, there'll be less Boston talk and more other team talk.
So if Scott Boras thinks that Eric Hosmer is worth $200 million, how much do you think Jake Arrieta is worth in this market?
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Like I said, my pet line is I leave these things to our friend Joe Sheehan. I don't, to figure that sort of thing out. After one good season, well, Hosmer has some good seasons, but after one really good season, he's suddenly going to get $200 million. And I read some stories, and they're the clubhouse presence and this and that and the other thing. The guy's an above average first baseman, God bless him if he gets any penny he can get, whatever. But come on, $200 million.
I would be surprised if he got more than $70 million guaranteed.
Yeah. I agree. And you know what? Put him in a different park. But on the other hand, he still doesn't loft the ball enough. I know he's one of those guys that looks to be not talked about as much, but he's more in the elevated swing sort of thing. But but that's part of what the market is now. There's just, if he's one of the top free agents, it's just not a very good market. And I think we've seen some of the good prospects turned into good young players get signed into those contracts that buy out their years. And this is where we're beginning to see it now is the free agent market is beginning to, now we're seeing the repercussions of that.
Yeah, we absolutely are. But Jake Arrieta is going to get paid to sum that point up. Dustin Pedroia still has not decided on knee surgery. Hopefully by the time you and I speak next, that will be cleared up. He's still thinking about it. I think the timetable would linger on maybe deep into spring training, possibly into the start of the year. So it doesn't sound like it'd be a completely minor operation for Pedroia, just kind of based on the way he's hesitating to have this done.
Yeah, and Nunez is another free agent, and they don't really have a second baseman in the pipeline ready to come up. So that's going to be interesting. It's one of those, do you go out, do you sign Nunez? Or, how do you hedge? And this year they had to part of it, they had to give him rest just because he was hurt. But they were giving him rest just to keep that knee healthy down the stretch. So I don't think you can count on, the 700 plate. Well, no, you can't count on, the 700 plate appearances. So what do you do? What do you do with Pedroia? He's hitting second. Man, if he's my seventh hitter in the Red Sox lineup, that's what that's where he should be. But we'll just have to see. The man is 34 years old now, so he's had a pretty good run. But can he be counted on, or is he? I don't want to say turns into the like a Chase Utley type, because that's a little bit different situation. But yeah, is he going to be the starter, or what are they going to do? Because he's not a DH. And you can't move a second baseman to another position. That's it, right? I mean, yeah. That's kind of the place. That's the last place you go.
Yeah, I don't really see what they're going to do in that situation. Hopefully, I think they got to make the best long-term call because they still have him under contract for a while. So hopefully, for his sake, he'll ultimately have the surgery. Everything will go well with that. And he can play out the rest of that deal. And,
he seems to be, I don't, reading between lines, he seems to be a guy that'll be upfront about it and won't wait. I mean, the Sox will know what the deal is. So therefore, as fantasy players, we'll know what the deal is. We'll know how to project playing. Will they go out and get someone? And so I think that it's going to be holding us hostage from a fantasy point of view. I mean, trying to figure out where to draft these guys might, but we'll know. I mean, it won't be Brock Holt, it won't be Josh Rutledge, but we'll know who the plan B at second base is.
Let's talk about the ace on Dave Stewart's fantasy teams, Shelby Miller. He has resumed throwing from flat ground, had surgery, Tommy John surgery, of course, back on May 10th. So it'll be the DL to open 2018.
Yeah.
And the return date, will fluctuate from mid-May to possibly the All-Star break, roughly, depending on how things progress in rehab. Mm-hmm. If things go kind of as they normally do. With Shelby Miller, I mean, even like at a keeper league, I don't even know if I'm the kind of guy that throws $1 at him on draft day and waits it out. Like I have a lot of concerns, and I had plenty of concerns about him before the elbow was an issue, based on what he was doing in 2016 and the little bits we did see of him in 2017.
Yeah, even with the humidor, I don't know. Dynasty in a true dynasty league where you get to keep everybody, you drop him and try to pick up a flyer. I don't even know, but I'm with you. I think it's the name brand's still there. He had, he pitched well. Once he was pitching terrible, he began to pitch well in AAA. Well, that's not enough for me.
Two players had their team options declined. Mike Napoli had one declined by the Rangers.
No surprise there.
He might be done. I wrote up his player outlook for the magazine already. Kind of worked through my list. I eyeballed the players I didn't want to write about and did them first and left the most exciting players for last. And even just writing it up for Napoli, the age, the lack of defensive flexibility, the season he's coming off of, the injuries he had, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you just called it a career, because teams are valuing that skill set less and less, and I think that's kind of working against them right now. The other is Glenn Perkins, who has been battling shoulder injuries really for the better part of 2 years now. Might be the kind of guy that gets a chance on a minor league deal or a really low-risk one-year sort of contract, but he is 34 right now. So hopefully he can make it back, but I think at this stage he's thrown 7 2/3 innings the last 2 seasons. It's anyone's guess as to whether or not he's actually going to be healthy enough to pitch in 2018.
Yeah, I think the important takeaway from the Napoli move is, Beltre will be coming back. It's just a way to make sure Joey Gallo has enough ample time to strike out from both sides of no matter who's pitching, sort of thing. He'll now be their first baseman, I think. And heck, maybe it I don't even know what Profar's status is, but maybe it opens up a little more playing time for Jurickson and Profar too. Who knows? But I just think that at this point they don't need a right-handed platoon hitter. Yeah, Perkins. Who knows? There's enough. Minor league contract, like you mentioned, someone may give him a shot. There's enough teams out there that could certainly use a setup. If not, I can't imagine he closes.
Jurickson and Profar, by the way, never got called up when rostered.
But
he had 287, 383, 428, 811 OPS, 7 homers, 5 steals, and 5 attempts, and walked more than he struck out in 87 games at AAA. And kind of like the old Brandon Whedon is older than Aaron Rodgers nugget that was floating around on Twitter. Jurickson and Profar doesn't turn 25 until February, so stranger things have happened. Maybe it doesn't happen for him in Texas, but you have to wonder if there'd be some teams interested in acquiring his services. I think he might be out of minor league options at this point as well.
Yeah, I remember he kind of complained a bit about his usage and whether he was punished for not getting called up, who knows? But absolutely, I mean, he can still hit, and I know being able to hit means less than it may have in previous seasons, just the way the landscape is now. But yeah, talk about a post-hype sleeper. I think that if anybody's assigned a post-hype sleeper article, you're probably going to be doing a little profile on Profar.
Is he in Black Swan territory for a first pitch?
My least favorite part of first pitch. Those guys don't listen, do they? I
don't know.
I don't know.
Hey guys.
No, that's more the scientist in me where I just, I've come to because actually it's based on the piece I did a couple of weeks ago. I always thought bold prediction was kind of an oxymoron, but doing the actual literal definition of prediction, it's not. A prediction can have some abstractness to it. So a bold projection to me is an oxymoron, or just not even an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. But anyway, yeah, you know what? He'll probably come out as a black swan. I don't think he'll replace Brendan Wood, but I think that whatever he just give him a shot somewhere. He even hit with Texas a little bit last year when he was up for a little while.
The all-time greatest black swan, the goat of black swans, if you will, has to be Grant Green, who we have seen in the Arizona Fall League in perpetuity since I first started going to the Fall League back in 2009.
Yeah. No, yes. I mean, at this point, he's now old enough where he could host another player and still play in the league. But yeah, he was. There's always a guy that's been there 2 or 3. Drew Henson was there a couple of years, but there's always a guy that had been there a few years. I think you're probably right. Grant Green probably does hold the. He's the Lou Gehrig of the Arizona Fall League.
Let's move on to some other topics. I wrote up a blog post about 2 weeks ago now. We didn't really talk about it much at the time. It's entitled 2018 Fantasy Baseball Position Eligibility Notes, and what I did is I went through the games played by position page on RotoWire, which is very helpful, set it to 20 games played in 2017, and then tried to find the players who no longer qualify at a position or positions that they used to qualify at. There's tons of players. I didn't even list them all in the blog post because some are very fringy players that don't even matter in the only league pool. But there's a few that really kind of caught my eye. They're bolded in the blog post if you like a written list more than me kind of rambling on about some things. But some that really kind of surprised me. Matt Carpenter, he's first base only now. He had second and third base eligibility this season. I think players losing eligibility hurts sometimes more than gaining eligibility helps. Like it's weird that I think it's generally because over time players have some limitations. They can't play multiple spots as effectively, and they end up at a position that's less valuable. A lot of times you don't add a position that's more valuable, but once in a while, of course, that can happen. So Matt Carpenter loses that. Second and third base, first base only for him. J.P. Crawford's third base only. I mean, talk about a prospect who has kind of fallen from grace without even really getting that much of a chance. He's still 22. I mean, is he that much of a bust? He hit 15 homers this year at AAA, had some steals, 351 on base. Like, is there some post-hype sleeper appeal for you with J.P. Crawford? I'm not even – you think about Crawford, he was one of those guys that I always thought was a little – actually, to me, a little like Profar, in that he was a little bit better of a pro prospect than he was a fantasy prospect, just because a lot of the game was fielding and the whatnot. So, I don't know. I mean, they're talking – Philly's talking – about clearing Galvis and Cesar Hernandez to get Kingery and Crawford into their Keystone combo, which would make sense. Let's just trade Galvis and Hernandez. Well, what are you going to get for them? I mean, they're nice players, but it's not as if you're going to get a whole lot for them. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, yeah, I'm interested. I'm not any less interested in Crawford, but I don't think I was horribly. He wasn't a guy. He wasn't a must get for me. As far as, if I'm picking in a minor league draft or dynasty league and I miss it on Crawford, I wasn't groaning. Cesar Hernandez to Boston wouldn't be bad, would it? No. He kind of he fits into he runs a bit. He does the that would be interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting play. Of course, the GM shouldn't matter as far as who the coach is. I'm sorry, to make trades, before they name the manager, which, from what I'm hearing, could be done. We always say, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like people come up to us and see. I see this on boards. Ask a question. From what I'm hearing, from what I read on Twitter, it could be the announcement could be, in between the two, the DS and the World Series. It's okay if you hear things with your eyes. That's totally fine. I just get a kick out of it. There's someone in particular, a friend of ours, likes to say that, and like, no, you didn't hear it. You read it on Twitter. You read it in the Washington Post. You read it in the whatever. Anyway, some other notable changes: Nelson Cruz utility only. Still and that's not going to change. Yeah, that's not going to change, right? He's not playing the field. The thing I would look at is the Mariners' interleague schedule. Yeah, even so, but they would need 2 road series in National League parks really early in the year for him to qualify in the outfield long enough for it to make an impact, because they are putting enough of an emphasis on outfield defense that I think they're going to make a very conscious effort to not put him in the outfield at all.
Yeah, well, of course, it matters on health too. If Gamble and I would almost combine Gamble and Haniger into Hamilton
and Dyson, matched all three of them into one.
Well, isn't Dyson a free agent?
He should be. He's been under control for the Royals for a long time, so I would think as last year.
Yeah. So anyway, So if those guys are healthy, we shall see. But I mean, and Cruz is another difficult projection just because he did not fall off this year. He did what he's always been doing, and it's always really, you can. There's not too many guys you can write in for 40 homers. At that, you can write. I want to compare it to Ortiz, but you can write him in for 40 homers. It's just I wanted to ding him because he's coming up so high in my rankings, but I couldn't. I can ding him because of the position, but I can't ding him because of the stats.
Yeah, there's a pretty short list of players who have had their best 4 seasons, arguably, in age 34 to 37. That's, I guess 33 to 36 is the range for him because he turned 37 on July 1st. He's right around the cutoff. I don't know how you would describe Nelson Cruz's seasons in terms of age. He's very good for a player well past 30 at this point, but UT only, and probably for good as we look ahead to 2018 and beyond. How about Marwin Gonzalez? I think he kind of falls into the Chris Taylor bucket of really difficult players to project. Added second base, shortstop, and outfield. He was eligible on both corners to begin the season. He's not eligible at third base to begin the year. Could easily pick up playing time there depending on health and all sorts of other factors. But the versatility alone makes Gonzalez pretty interesting because it seems like he's a player that A.J. Hinch really likes, and he's got so many paths to playing time, even if you think each starter ahead of him is just a lot more talented. But then you throw in what Gonzalez did this year. A 907 OPS, 23 homers, 8 steals, didn't strike out much either, 99 strikeouts in 515 plate appearances. So he improved his K rate from the previous 2 seasons. He more than doubled his walk rate and showed a new level of power. I mean, talk about difficult players to project. You could take 6 months and think about what he did this year and in years prior and still come away uncertain if the projection for 2018 actually fits what he's likely to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my projection now, and I have him for just 550 at bats or so, which could be light. I don't, and I think you have to put some credence into the fact that AJ Hinch is playing him, in the outfield, playing left field in the playoffs. He feels he's one of his 8 best position players plus DH obviously, but who else they put him out? Beltran or not the whole lot of guys they could put out there instead. But still, they found a place to keep his bat in the lineup out there in left field. Not that the infield is fully healthy. So I mean, he's tough as far as at bats go. I like to compare guys like that to Ty Wigington in that you don't know where he's going to get his 400 bats. You just know that he is. But with Gonzalez, it's not 400. It's 550 or 600.
Yeah, that's the ceiling. And he didn't get to that level in 2017, but you got to see what Houston does over the course of the offseason.
Yeah,
that's going to impact it a lot. But I'm impressed by the skills. He was a guy that I had no expectations for at all coming into the 2016 or 2017 season. I thought out of 2016 he was just a really versatile guy that was kind of like AL-only centric, or maybe the kind of player you could plug in on a deep mixer if you were dealing with a couple injuries, something along those lines, but certainly not this. Jed Jerko, third base only. He lost second and shortstop eligibility. That's what I like the most about Jed Jerko coming into this year. I already tweeted Nando DeFino, so Nando is well aware that Jerko is third base only, and he's the only person on the planet who's more sad than I am about this news.
Yeah, St. Louis is another tough nut to crack. They it's what are the between Tommy Pham and some of the other guys they got there, it's just are they for real? Are they going to continue to play? I think we'll talk about Martinez in a while. I don't want to spread get too far ahead of ourselves, but yeah, St. Louis is a tough team to crack right now as far as early playing time in some of these early drafts and mocks that we're doing. Does Diaz come back up? Did they trust him again? I'm actually on the Pham band. I mean, I'm talking St. Louis, but I'm actually on the Pham bandwagon. I know they didn't have the surgery, but I get a feeling that what we're seeing is the real deal if he can stay. The eyes can stay good. Paul DeJong is the name I was kind of searching for before. What's he? He kind of took over for the the shortstop role coming in down the stretch. Does he continue along that way? I mean, this time last year we thought that Diaz would be a good player, and then he ended up in the minors. So, but it's just St. Louis is another tough team, and they're talking about going out and I hear that St. Louis wants to pick up trade for Josh Donaldson. So, where does that put Jerko at that point? What do you do with Colton Wong?
The Jays could use both Jerko and Wong if they traded Donaldson, because they could use the OBP at second base, get some insurance on Devin Travis.
This isn't the year that Travis goes nuts?
I like Devin Travis as a player. I just don't trust him to stay healthy.
Exactly.
Poor guy's dealt with just major injuries, it seems.
Exactly.
Year over year. Manny Machado lost shortstop eligibility.
Yeah.
J.J. Hardy, though, his contract is up. So I know they got Tim Beckham there, but could they possibly get Machado more time at shortstop in 2018 and have him qualify in season again at that position?
Yeah, you think? I mean, Baltimore needs pitching more than they need hitting, but they could go out and a hitter would be happy to sign in Baltimore, I would think. So yeah, it's kind of nice to know that you could sign either a really good shortstop or a really good third baseman and move Machado to the other position. I guess if you ask him, he'd want to play short just because of the glamour. But I just, I get the impression the guy just wants to play.
He's an awesome defender, regardless of where they play him on the left side of that infield.
Yeah.
Here's one if you were in a keeper league that's annoying, at least early on in the year. Francisco Mejia is UT only now in a lot of leagues because that's where he played the most in 2017. You may have some provisions in your league that allow you to continue rostering him as a catcher, but if you have a keeper rule that requires you to fill out an active lineup, not have any bench players, something like that, blocking that utility spot on auction day is far from ideal.
Yeah. You sort of you may have to get cute, and you may have to do something. I mean, in a mixed league, you draft yourself a Posey or something and put him at first, and try to because you can backfill that position. There's ways to go about it. And who's to say how much Mejia will play next year? I'd like to think that it's important because I think he'll play some next year. Yan Gomes has not shown that. I don't think Lucroy made the right decision that figuring Yan Gomes is going to block him. I guess karma's kind of bit Lucroy, hasn't it, since that decision?
Something bit him. Maybe some weird bug or something in Texas.
Yeah. Now, I mean, with Carlos Santana as a free agent, you move Encarnacion to either DH or he can still play first base. They could go out and get someone. They could use some help on the outfield too. Cleveland could. So it's tough to say. I mean, Mejia, maybe he may even DH. I don't know, but I think whatever that hitting streak was, his bat, I think that the hit tool is ready for the pros. I just don't know if he's ready defensively or if he'll. I think he's a catcher long term. I don't see him moving off unless it's to DH.
I believe he is in the Arizona Fall League, and they're moving him around the infield.
Are they? Okay.
So that complicates matters even further. But he only played 92 games at Double A. He's never played at Triple A. He's 21 years old. He turns 22.
Yeah, all right. So maybe I misspoke a bit there. Yeah, I misspoke. He's done all he can do in Double A.
Well, but the bat's really far ahead of the glove at this point.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so fascinating. But that's a tough blow. UT only to start the season, especially for those in keeper leagues. Raul Mondesi Jr., only second base for now. Probably going to add shortstop though in the first week of the season.
Well, you got to figure Whit Merrifield's the guy now, right? I mean, and Mondesi gets another shot at shortstop. So you'd like to think, Alcides Escobar is not going to block him if he's even back. So yeah, I would think if you're still on the Mondesi bandwagon, that pick him up, put him in your middle. You're going to be able to move a shortstop eventually.
Still just as a 21-year-old this year, he turned 22 in July.
Yeah.
305, 340, 539. So an 879 OPS, 13 homers in 85 games at AAA Omaha, 21 for 24 as a base stealer.
Yeah, that's important too. The better percentage now, especially nowadays, they're more aware of it. The better your percentage, the better chance teams continue to let you run.
Yeah, so and we know with the Royals, Ned Yost will let Mondesi run. The key is not being overmatched by big league pitching. That's been the case in his previous opportunities, but he was 20 and 21 years old, so you got to give him a bit of a pass. Eduardo Nunez, no longer shortstop eligible, still eligible at second, third, and the outfield. We'll see where he lands as a free agent. We mentioned Hanley earlier. Both he and Albert Pujols are UT only.
Yep.
Jose Ramirez added second base. Jason Kipnis missed a lot of time, so he's second and third, but lost outfield. Ramirez, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's a player going on the turn, the 1-2 turn right now, and rightfully so, it appears, based on what he's been showing us. Yangervis Solarte was third base only. Now he's second, short, and third base. He's one of those players I like to get late because unless the Padres do a lot of unexpected things to reshape that roster, he's probably going to hit higher up in that lineup than he'd hit pretty much anywhere else league-wide. Yeah,
a little, quiet pop. The Padres have a couple of decent infielders, but they're a couple years away. So, I agree for the same reason. And no one cares about Solarte. So he's a great guy for a mixed league to be able to move guys around.
Turns out to be very helpful to have a player or two like that on your bench. Yeah. Trey Turner, shortstop only now. He lost his eligibility at second base. And Jonathan Villar is second base only now. He lost third base and shortstop over the season.
He can only disappoint at one position now.
Yeah. I mean, he was going early in drafts last year.
Yeah, I know. I took him there.
I didn't think it was a bad idea. I didn't get him, but I didn't think it was a bad idea. So I can't take credit for avoiding him because I would have done it if things had broken that way. What kind of projection does he have right now based on the radically different 2 seasons he's put together in Milwaukee?
I don't know where he's going to play. I mean, Arcia has quietly done a nice job out there, and I don't think Milwaukee likes him, and maybe rightfully so as far as the defense and some of it's not just has physical errors, a lot of mental errors, and I think they may look, and I like the skills, but he has to be more disciplined both at the plate and in the field, so it's tough. I mean, if you need steals, it's going to be there. I don't know. I'm not. Listen, it's early for everybody. We're all in the same boat, and I'm actually doing my playing time right now. And he's one of the guys that I'm just not sure. Hernandez Perez came on towards the end, and he doesn't really interfere completely with the positions. There's enough overlap, and then kind of like what's Eric Sogard going to do? And he showed, unlike Scooter Gennett kept hitting, whereas Sogard fell off. So I think there is an opening there. If VR, they could just say, this is it, you're our second baseman, and let's go for it. But I don't know. It's not going to be Neil Walker.
I would like to see VR get traded to another team that will run a lot, like San Diego, for a reliever. Like Phil Matan. That'd be great. If we could script that'd be perfect. And a team like San Diego, they're aggressive. They could give him everyday playing time. They're still not ready to win in 2018. So he can go out there and make mistakes, and it doesn't matter, but it gives him that chance to just kind of relax, know he's got a job, and just pile up a bunch of cheap speed again.
Yeah, I guess I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just because he runs, he's just going to be elevated up rankings just because, at least objective rankings just because of that. But I mean, right now I get him for 400 or so at bats. I don't know how many plate appearances that, with him it's 382 at bats. For him, it's probably 400 plate appearances. Although he walks a little bit, but just at this point, not really sure where they're going to come from.
Yeah, I think with VR though, for a player who was going in the first 2 rounds of a lot of drafts, the discount is going to be huge. How about pick 250 of that slow draft that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think too. What was my mistake? He'd only done it 1 year. He's one of those guys that he'd only done it. He showed the skills for partial seasons before. So when you do a spreadsheet projection and it builds half a season's worth of skills, you don't get dinged for lack of playing time. So then when you project the playing time up, it carries those skills through, and I can see where the projection comes from. So now it's the old, it's the upside downside, risk, because he may have shown the skills before, but he's only done it for 1 year. is he, how confident, in retrospect, how confident should I have been that he'd be able to show those skills again? And is Milwaukee a team that'll stick with him and all that sort of stuff? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to, would I make that same mistake again? I don't know. If I took him where he did, it's because it was close to where the market was around it, and I wasn't the only one.
Well, if he were to just repeat what he did this year, and you get him at pick 250, do you feel like that's good value? I mean, that's 11 homers, 23 steals, 49 runs, and 40 ribbies at a killer. I mean, there's just not enough there to really offset a 241 average. Steals are hard to come by, though. Are 23 steals worth it at pick 250?
Yeah, I think you saw it a little more closely. I mean, there were stretches where he wasn't playing. I mean, if you just put that in your lineup and he's in there for 26 weeks, I don't know, that's a little bit light. But if he only is if he gives you those stats, maybe a little bit less stats over 18 weeks, and you're backfilling somebody, I guess. But yeah, it just now I know you need speed. You need speed. But you can't give up so much elsewhere to get that speed, or you're giving back whatever you gain in the other three categories, sometimes 4.
VR or Jose Peraza for 2018, if you're deciding right now?
It's going to be Peraza. I'm just a little more confident that he has playing time.
Okay, a little less swing and miss in his game too. That makes a pretty big difference.
Yeah, and I mean if I'm Cincinnati, I don't want both Behem and Peraza on my team to take advantage of that park. But I don't. Right now, Hamilton is morphed into a heck of an outfielder. So if but I don't know that I don't see Cincinnati getting rid of Peraza. Maybe they do. They still have Mental Block, the kid from New York, the kid from the Mets, the middle infielder
in Cincinnati.
Yeah. They got in the trade.
Oh, Dilson Herrera.
Yeah, so they still have Herrera. So maybe there is a market for Peraza, or someone will go out there and deal for Jose Peraza. So, but right now I would prefer Peraza. But man, shoot, you tell me that he's going to play 550 at bats, and it's VR because he's going to get more homers. But I just a little more confident Peraza's playing time, and who knows.
Well, you can check out the full list of position eligibility changes in the blog. It's free, so it's pretty awesome. Check that out. Get a feel for what's changed since the end of the season. Let's talk about a few players that have kind of caught our eyes over the last couple of weeks. I like Austin Barnes a lot. He's one of the kind of good players, interesting players I wrote up for the magazine already. I think they got one more year of control on Yasmani Grandal, so it's probably going to be the same tandem behind the plate, but you never know over the course of the season. Some off-season, there could be some team interested in acquiring Grandal, and the Dodgers may get an offer they can't refuse. But the thing I like about Barnes is, even if he's only a part-time player, he actually added second base eligibility, so you can move him around a little bit. Depending on what they have at second base, they could give him some time there. He gets on base a ton. He's got some pop, and he actually runs a little bit too. So if he somehow finds 400 plate appearances, or even more than that, who knows how he does it, but if he were to do that, yeah, the skills might take a slight hit, but I think he's the kind of catcher, especially in a league that requires you to start 2, he's not going to hurt you, and there's a chance that he actually helps you quite a bit.
Yeah, my colleague Perry Van Hook's always been on Barnes, and I've always, I don't say questioned why, but not yet, Perry, let's wait. Not that they ever drafted Perry, but Perry, you should have waited one more round, sort of thing. And this year he was right, or it was the right point. Makes very good. Well, the contact improved this year. Although what it looks like, actually, it looks like last year was the outlier, and the contact is right where it was, and it was only 30 at bats last year, so you really can't judge. But really nice contact, especially for a catcher, and he's got nice walk rate too. So yeah, he's a really you're probably spoiling it here, but he's a nice catcher for Tout Wars, which uses OBP.
Yeah, going to be a little more pricey in that format, but definitely the kind of player that I like.
Maybe. Because
he won't hurt you behind the plate. And so many second catchers, I think, are going to be very, very mediocre as we look ahead to this pool next season. One guy that we just missed out on in our slow draft, Teoscar Hernandez. You look at Toronto, they're kind of a cheap team. They don't want to spend a lot of money in free agency. They get this tooled-up outfielder from the Houston organization. He was top 10 in barrels per plate appearance, minimum 30 batted ball events. So still a smaller sample based on the number of plate appearances he actually had, but still, to be near the top of that leaderboard at least catches your eye. And the K rate, while it was high this year, it was close to 38%. I don't think that's really his skill set. I mean, I think he's better than that. Maybe he's one of those guys that'll whiff 30% of the time. But based on everything we've seen from him in the minors, his age, it would be surprising to me if he whiffs his way back to AAA for a prolonged stretch in 2018. And I could just see him ending up as a starter in Toronto based on the way that team kind of goes about its business.
You're not worried about Dalton Pompey?
I am not.
Yeah, no, it's in the draft we're doing. We've talked about him on the pod before, and one of the guys in the draft actually said, "I'm surprised you didn't just take Hernandez," and of course he went in and took them. And had we thought him, we're working off lists, but we're not working off rigid projections and whatever. So guys, we're going to miss guys, and we ended up taking Clint Frazier. And had one of us thought of Hernandez at that point, I bet you we would have taken Hernandez then.
Yeah, because the playing time path is a little clear.
Yeah.
Like as much as we expect the Yankees to figure something out, they have Ellsbury and Gardner both in their contract. They have Hicks under control, and they have Aaron Judge. And they may want to get Gary Sanchez out from behind the plate. So between him and Greg Bird, first base and DH might be spoken for as well. That really puts Frazier kind of in a bad spot as far as his early season playing time outlook. Whereas from this point, again, mid-October, Teoscar Hernandez could just be the starting left fielder.
Well, Bautista's gone. Yeah, Bautista's gone. Steve Pearce did not do anything to win the hearts of the Torontonians. So absolutely, yeah. Like I said, I mean, maybe we may have even taken him next when we took Robinson Chirinos, but he just. It's just, I don't say it's our fault because we didn't come up with the name, but yeah, and the guy that took him was probably pretty happy that we didn't think of it. But absolutely, he's a guy the runs and hits. He was hitting leadoff for Toronto a lot. I mean, it was just they were putting a lot of guys at leadoff. They were a lot of guys Urena. There were a lot of guys at leadoff. To me, I think they were just getting guys more at bats in September. Just it wasn't so much he's our leadoff hitter. It's like, well, let's take a look at Teoscar Hernandez. We're going to put him at leadoff to get him 5 at bats. So as opposed to future leadoff hitter type of guy. But absolutely, he's a guy I definitely want a piece of. Just he can get you the 2020. Although I guess which is more likely, the 20 steals or 20 homers. I guess on Toronto, the problem is Toronto doesn't run, although they will run if they prove you can do it, sort of thing. They don't just run willy-nilly. I mean, PR runs, but he doesn't run a ton. So, and that's sort of, not so much blocking him. But I guess, I don't know, if I have to say which is more likely to get the 20 homers or 20 steals, I guess it's the 20 steals, but put him in a different team, I'd be more confident about it.
See, I think he's more likely to get to the 20 homers. I mean,
is it? Yeah. Well, and that on that park, I think he is. Yeah.
20 in about 105 games this year. Actually, add 6 more because he's got 2 AAA stat lines from this year since he was traded during the season. So yeah, he had 28 homers, 52 games at AAA, 79. Let me try that again. 26 games in the big leagues. 105 at AAA, combined 26 home runs. So there's a lot of power in that bat. And the efficiency as a base stealer, still a little bit of a work in progress. But yeah, I think he could be maybe 20 homers, 10 steals, and a better average than you might think.
Well, I mean, just last year in Double-A, he 29 out of 40 with and still in the Houston organization. But that's what I was looking at too. He had seasons of 24, 31. Of course, this is an A ball as a 20-year-older, and all you can do is run at that point. That's what he was doing. 33 out of 40. So he can. I think the percentage can be there. It just wasn't very strong when he came to the Toronto organization. Well, actually, it would have been with Houston still because Buffalo's with Toronto. So with Buffalo, he was 4 out of 5. So I think it's there. He didn't run with Toronto at all, which kind of screwed up every single one of my write-ups because I kept saying, on a daily, one of my pieces I did was you can who you want to use as a waiver wire pickup or in a daily league. And in September is always Hernandez because he can always run, and he only attempted 1 steal. But I think that's an anomaly. But absolutely, I wish we didn't get him this draft. I'm sure we'll both have him, some exposure to him. We'll probably be fighting for him in some of the magazine mocks.
Yes, we will be. I got him in the Mason mock that I was in, and was pretty happy about that. One more player that kind of popped into our conversation. We didn't end up getting him. Thought about him a few rounds ago. Jose Martinez. I mean, I don't know what to make of this guy. He's already 29 years old. 29 back in July. Comes up, has an 897 OPS, 14 home runs, the most he's hit at any level in a season. And he's a big guy. He can move around a little bit. He's not a great defender. Nothing's guaranteed to him even as far as playing time goes in 2018. But the per-plate appearance numbers were impressive. And if he were to secure a spot, if they were to move Matt Carpenter again, even though he lost eligibility at second and third, if they make a trade and Colton Wong's gone, if Carpenter's playing second base, I can see Jose Martinez emerging as a guy that takes over at least a chunk of the playing time at first base.
Yeah, he's interesting. I should give you credit, too, because when we talked about him, it wasn't so much I was against him. I just thought he'd last longer. And sure enough, he went before we picked again. So you kind of called that too. You said, I don't know if he'll last. I'm like, I thought he would. So this is an interesting group of people. Nothing gets by these guys, but even so, yeah. No, and I still assume. I'm assuming Carpenter can be healthy. I just think at this point he's a first baseman. They should just put him there. St. Louis is again an interesting team with so many different guys. Martinez is interesting in that he was crushing lefties all year, but towards the end of August, early September, he started hitting righties too, and they just said, "All right, you're the guy." And they put Luke Voigt away, they put a couple different guys away, and they just let Martinez crush, and he held his own against righties. But he's already shown he can be a lefty. But I guess it takes a special team or such a situation to have a platoon at first base. That's not ideal, but I think he has shown he can do a little bit more. But again, it's St. Louis. We haven't gotten it our outfield. We can do the same thing with our outfield. Who knows who's playing time in their outfield too? It's a little bit up in the air.
I mean, he's the kind of dart after pick 200 or so this early. If you like him, take the chance because somebody else might be on him too. Really unusual story. No idea how to project him, but great numbers this season.
Well, you don't have to. You have to let us do it, and then you have to talk about it.
Yeah,
I mean, you get enough to do.
The thing that I really like though about him, K rate under 20%. Like that's the thing that kind of stands out for that much power. A couple mailbag questions here. The first one comes from Steve. He says, "Do you conduct postmortems for your teams, and if so, how do you do it?"
I don't sit down and because I have too many teams. B, I kind of know what went wrong just because it's just I don't want to say it's my job, but I just kind of know. And C, I need to get ready for next year. But yeah, there will be as I'm going along. There are things that I will think about and will go back. Hey, did this league draft saves? Yada yada yada. But I'm in a different scenario than a lot of other people. I don't. If I'm sitting down thinking about my team, I'm imagining there's this. My tens of fans are out there mad that I'm not preparing my work for them. So but I do hear people that sit down and do some things. But the one thing I could just sort of offhandedly. Don't get too caught up and have a knee-jerk reaction on something that happened this year, be it injuries or this or that or a strategy or whatever that just didn't work out. Maybe process not outcome. So maybe one thing you think, well, maybe I shouldn't have drafted this guy or whatever. Take a look at the draft and say, geez, if I had taken this guy instead, I wouldn't be saying that. So it's not so much I should have taken this guy, but before you do a knee-jerk and completely change your philosophy or whatever, take a look at that. Was it just, things did you pick the right idea, but you just happened to get the wrong player? That's all. I mean, I'm never going to draft a starter early again because of Madison Bumgarner fell off a bicycle. Well, I wouldn't quite go that far,
Yeah, that would be an overreaction, to say the least. But I've written a blog before where I've dissected like an NFBC team that fell apart. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit cathartic the first time, maybe the second time, and then after a while, if you have enough failures in the NFBC, you don't even want to write about it anymore. You just kind of think, all right, what can I do to make this better? And there's been gradual improvement for me in that format. Those are just really tough leagues, and I need to come to grips with that. But what I tried to do is look back and think, was there anything I was doing consistently that was different than years past? And the one thing that was different, I think, for me this past draft season was being more willing than ever to buy into 1 year, buying into a player that had really never done it prior to the season before and thinking, this is a new level, this is real, and I'm willing to pay for it. And Steven Piscotty is a guy that I had a lot of places, absolutely burned me everywhere. But that alone didn't cause me to lose. There was a combination of injuries, there was a combination of missing out on some of the cheap breakout type players. I mean, part of the success for people this year, I mean, I didn't pick up Whit Merrifield anywhere. I only had Eddie Rosario on one team. You think about players that were difference makers that entered the pool over the course of the year. If you didn't pick any of those guys up, that could be as much your problem as having an okay draft instead of a great one. I mean, you can draft an okay team, hit those big pickups later on, and win. And I've talked about this before with Tout Wars a few years ago. It was the Arrieta Carrasco breakout years. And if I don't land those two guys, I don't win that year. And that's the difference. And did I know they'd be that good? No. I just knew they were interesting, they had good skills, and there was a chance they could help me. But did I think they'd put me over the top? Not when I picked them up.
Yeah, I think I've talked about it before. The one thing I do know is, again, I hope I don't have to worry about it, but I wasn't nearly aggressive enough fixing my mistakes, of which there were many. So that was good. That compounded them. I still stayed conservative. I'm in a hole, whether it be injuries or just, bad drafting like I did in Tout Wars, drafting too many old guys and just not backfilling well enough when they had the shot to take a chance on a guy and happen to land on a guy. So that's one thing I am going to look into. But I think to me, just not just your own team, but look at the league and league tendencies, and even if they're similar leagues too. I mean, maybe I'm not going to pay for saves. Well, try to find some other similar leagues and see what they do or things like that. But I think you need to go back and look at your team. But I still am more of the mind that what's done is done. You kind of know what went wrong. You kind of know what went right. Spend the time figuring what's going to happen next. But everybody's different.
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to find repeated errors, though, would be one of the first things I would do if you're going to conduct the autopsy and really figure out why your teams might have died this season. But it's a good question.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Steve. One other question. This is from Art Vandelay on Twitter. 2018 outlook on White Sox youngsters Nicky Delmonico and Juan Minaya. All right, so Delmonico's always been able to hit. There's always been kind of this question as to where exactly he was going to play.
Yeah.
But a lefty power bat, at least a lot of raw power there, hasn't always shown up in the form of huge seasons. He's been a little old for the level the last couple of years. I believe he had a suspension at one point for drugs that knocked him out for a little while. But he's 25 now. He's on a team that's rebuilding. He's outfield only, by the way, based on the position eligibility piece that I've put together. I think he's actually going to be a decent late-round target. I mean, he's kind of in that same bucket, actually, as like a Jose Martinez, where you look at him and you say, hey, this guy didn't strike out a lot. He walked a good amount. Playing time is sort of questionable. I think you like Delmonico maybe a little better even because he's a few years younger than Jose Martinez. Yeah,
I mean, I saw him towards the end of the season a little bit. My untutored eye, he looked like a fundamentally sound type of player. Doesn't excite me a ton. We were talking about him off air a little bit. To me, he's a guy that had he not gotten hurt and continued on that, above his level playing, I think his be even, the hype would be even greater. So kind of getting hurt took him off radar, especially in September when not everybody's paying attention and people are doing football, whatever. So some people may have even missed what he was doing and then didn't get a chance to see it because he didn't continue to do it. I just, just so hard with the White Sox to know as far as playing time, who they're going to, pick up. They're not going to go for it this year, so I don't see them going out and signing anybody. So do they give him a chance? And if he doesn't work out, do they give someone else? I mean, Lurie Garcia, guys like this, they played at the beginning because of default, and then they happened into more playing time because they were playing well. But so yeah, I don't know. I just he's worth a dart to me, but I don't know that he has the upside of a Teoscar Hernandez, of some other darts to take. So I guess the deeper the league, the more likely I am to do it. I just don't know if the upside's there.
Yeah, I think he makes my what could go right, I'll throw the late dart for a buck or two kind of list. But I'm also not going to be furious, at least at this point, if somebody else gets him instead.
Yeah, I mean, we're through him. He hasn't even come up yet. I mean, a reserve pick, sure. I don't want to draft him as my fourth or fifth outfielder and say, all right, now we're going to go out and get this guy in case Delmonico. I want Delmonico to be the cool. What are we going to do? Delmonico's hitting. Now we have an issue. Who are we going to start this week? I want him to be that guy. I don't want him to be. I'm not going to bank on him doing much. The team context. It's a nice park, but I think that's so important now with runs and RBIs. Just not to forget about him in today's landscape, and he's just not going to be a huge stat filler as far as that goes. Like you mentioned, the power. The power, more power could develop. I saw him more as a scrappy guy than a power guy, but I think the power is there and can still develop.
I think it might be described as sneaky pop at this point because it doesn't show up in the year-by-year home run totals, but it's there, and it's coming in little flashes. The only thing I'm a little concerned by, I guess, is that the numbers he was posting in the big leagues were better than what he was doing at AAA. Like, that is a little bit of a red flag for me as far as expecting a full repeat. But playing time is something that might be on Nicky Delmonico's side. As far as Juan Minaya goes, I don't really see any reason to expect him to be pitching in the ninth inning again. I mean, unless the White Sox are just kind of punting again in 2018 as they rebuild and they say, you know what, we got this guy in our organization. We kind of like him. Got 9 saves and 10 chances down the stretch. Let's see what he can do. They've turned less into more, skills-wise, than Minaya. But if you're in a league where you picked him up for a buck or two and you got a keeper deadline that's coming up soon, I wouldn't lock him in even for a buck or two this early because so much can go wrong for him between now and opening day.
Yeah, my problem with him, I don't have a problem with fly ball pitchers. I do have a problem with fly ball pitchers that also walk guys, and that's what he does. So, especially in that park. So, listen, he ran into a couple of saves basically out of attrition. So, I mean, AL only for a buck, I don't even think I'm going to go there just because it's just saves just aren't that important to me. The strikeouts are nice, but even those, I don't have the swing strike rate in front of me, but I'd like to look at that. He was a huge strikeout guy earlier in his career when he was a little bit older, for 23 years old in high A ball. I'd expect the guy to be striking guys out, but I think I just don't see him sustaining it again
unless the walk rate or the home run rate comes down. Or the K rate goes way up.
Yeah, he's a fly ball pitcher. I don't think we'll see the home runs come down. I mean, the home runs come down if he gets more outs and this just doesn't face as many batters.
Right. But walking guys with that home run issue is a major concern for me. So I'm not real optimistic on Juan Minaya. Although, again, in that organization, never rule it out. I'm not banking on it at this point. I'm not looking to get him right now.
Yeah, I mean, who am I projecting for saves for them right now? I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, I like Birdie, but he had the TJS, so he's out of the picture. So we went through for our draft. We went through some teams trying to figure out who we want for throw a dart at, and the White Sox, we just said not even worth it. Let's not even try to figure out who it was because we just don't know, and we don't want him even if he does get the saves.
I think last we heard Nate Jones underwent repositioning surgery.
Yeah,
elbow, so that knocked him out in July.
Yeah. But I mean, long term, I still like Zach Birdie. I think both Birdie brothers had the surgery, but who knows?
All right, well, that's going to wrap things up for this episode of the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Thank you for the questions, Steve and Art. If you got questions you want us to get to in a future week, hit us up on Twitter. He's at Todd Zola. I'm at Derek VanRiper. You can also tweet at us at RotoWire, at RotoWire MLB, and you can email us at fantasybaseballpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. We're back with you next week.